Alrighty, I think we are live. Hello again, everyone. Today is Saturday, February 15th, 2025. I'm going to stop counting my live streams, even though this is number 4. And today I want to start off with a shout out to my new friend, PDP72 over on Matrix. So PDP72 created an account on matrix.org and reached out to me. We had a little chat just saying hello. And that was super cool. Thank you very much, PDP72, for taking the time to do this. I really enjoyed seeing your messages for a number of reasons. First and foremost, this gives utility to the things that I am doing here. You're the first person to have reached out to me on Matrix, and it gives a lot of life to the project. Having other people interact with it is very exciting for me, so thank you for being the first. You've taken a bold first step here. Also, this gives me the opportunity to see what is working and what is not working on my services. As you may see up to the left, I have 2 chats open with PDP72, and later on in this stream, I am going to explain why, and we will look at some of the problems that we encountered while trying to have this chat on Matrix. Hopefully, this will not be a recurring issue. So, I get a bit of a feedback loop from my viewers when they use these things, which is really cool. Thank you. Also, this indicates steps forward towards the kind of long-term vision I have for what I am doing with these services and servers. So I have deployed a lot of open source federated services on my network, and I am showing you on these streams how I have done that, what they are, and how these things work, and how they can work together. The idea being that you can do this for yourself, and then we can use each of our own respective networks to interact with each other in whatever way. So PDP72 used a matrix.org account, but they could have also deployed their own instance of Matrix, Synapse, Element, etc., and communicated with me that way. And you, dear viewer, can do the same. So that is kind of the idea behind what I am streaming here, and PDP72's messages to me are showing steps in the right direction, so that's very exciting for me. That being said, I do want to take the opportunity to give a bit of a warning, not something that has happened to me, but something that I've heard of happening to other YouTubers, of impersonation, especially since I am hosting my own services on this network. I have concerns that someone else could buy a domain name that is similar to mine, deploy the same things, even using the same code that I have, that I've made available for free. And they could impersonate me and potentially try to scam my viewers. I don't want this to happen, so I would like to just make a PSA right now that you should be very careful when interacting with people over the internet. I will never reach out to you personally and ask you for money. So if someone is doing that, it is not me. Again, this is not something that has happened to me. I have heard of it happening to other YouTubers and live streamers and internet personalities. So I just want to make sure that people are aware and try to avoid that happening in the future. Also, I'll take this opportunity to once again mention that we have a Matrix chat publicly available. This is for the Owncast live streams. So if you're catching this live, please feel free to join here. There should be a link on the Owncast page. Okay, so let's take a look at what went wrong when PDP72 tried to message me. First and foremost, we did end up having a conversation. We were able to connect. It just took 2 attempts. So don't be shy about trying yourself. We can get it to work. But let's take a look at what happened. I can actually show you exactly what happened. Just so that we are clear, this is Element. This application here is called Element. It is a client for the Matrix protocol. Matrix is the protocol, Element is the client, and Synapse is the server. So I am hosting an instance of Synapse, and I am running this Element client locally on my computer to connect to it. I'm not sure what client PDP72 used. They may have used Matrix, or they may have used something else. And you have the option to use any client you like. But when I So PDP72 reached out to me first, so I received this invite to chat. I accept the invite to chat and I say start chatting, and I get this matrix error. Failed to make join via any server with some special thing. I don't know if it's sensitive for me to be showing this. Maybe it is. I don't think it will be. It will be fine. Point being, it doesn't work. And we can look a little more into detail as to why. So, how do we debug something like this? So, this is my terminal. This is a little bit ugly. Is this how I want to show it? No. I'm going to show you in Gitea because it's a little prettier. I cannot show you in Gitea. We will want that later though, because what I want to show you is actually Kubernetes. Okay, so here I am SSH'd into the control plane for my Kubernetes cluster, and I'm going to run a few commands on it. So first thing I want to do is with kubectl, I want to list the pods in the matrix namespace. Maybe we should look at the deployment. I don't know how much to assume you know about Kubernetes when looking at this, or where I should begin explaining things. If you are not at all familiar with Kubernetes, a 5-second overview is that it is an application for running Docker containers, or other kinds of containers. There are various types, but Docker is the most popular and most common, so I'm just going to say Docker. You put Kubernetes on a series of computers, and then they work together in a cluster to run Docker containers. So if I have a bunch of servers, I can install Kubernetes on all of them, and then I can just talk to the one control plane and say, I need an instance of Synapse for my Matrix network. And Kubernetes will decide which of those computers that pod or container should run on, or on which that container should run. So I have a Kubernetes cluster. If you've watched these live streams, you probably know what I have here and what this is, but I have a big computer in the closet, and I have 15 virtual machines running on that computer. Those are configured into a Kubernetes cluster. You can check out the previous live streams to get more information on that. And what I am doing here is I have SSH'd into the virtual machine that is the control plane, and I am going to run some commands against it. So there's your brief explanation of Kubernetes. So it's divided into namespaces, which is just a made-up way of grouping things together. We don't need to worry too much about that, but I have a namespace that is for my Matrix server. And let's just go ahead and list the Docker containers within. I'm not going to go into Helm charts today or things like that. We'll try and avoid that. Maybe I'll talk about that in the future. But what we can see is that there are 3 Docker containers running in the Matrix namespace of my Kubernetes cluster. These Docker containers could be on any of the 14 workers that are in the cluster. We can find out exactly which one it's on, but I don't really care which one it's on at the moment. So what's important is what's running. What we have is a Postgres database. This is the Element client. I actually am hosting a HTTP web interface for Element just for ease of use for certain users. And then Synapse. This is the container of interest for the error that we are seeing. So again, that error is, when I start chatting, we get this 502 failed to make join via any server. I can't zoom in on this, so I apologize if you can't see this. But maybe I can zoom in on that. I don't know. I'm not going to try. Anyway, so what I want to do here is see what is happening in this Docker container that is causing it to fail. So I am going to logs. And you can see I already ran this command. And if we look at the bottom here, we can actually look at this one since I am in the way. The request is failing. Getting matrix federation at matrix.org. So this URL, and it's also trying to parameterize my URL, is returning a 404. So I'm not sure where this 404 is occurring. Is it occurring on my Synapse server, or is it occurring on the matrix.org Synapse server? Looking at this error message, well, we can actually see that it's matrix.org that's returning the 404. So I can be kind of confident that the 404 is coming from matrix.org, but I'm not sure if it's because matrix.org is trying to reach mine, getting a 404, and then returning that back to me, or is it just that the matrix.org for this URL is just totally returning a 404 on its own? I'm not entirely sure. Let's close out of this. So what I ended up doing was initiating the chat myself. So given that this may be a problem on the matrix.org servers, I just started a new chat and then typed in PDP72, and I was able to pull up a new room that was initiated from my Synapse server. And from there, we were able to chat. So first thing I want to point out is don't be shy about trying to reach out, even knowing that there's this error occurring. It might not occur for you, and we'll still be able to communicate. I will see it, and I'll just start a chat on my own. A few things. I'm not going to show you the actual chat we had. It's not actually private or personal. It's just, actually, they gave me permission to give them a shout out, but anyway, I'll leave private chats private for anyone who would worry about that in the future, should that dissuade someone from trying to reach out. Anyway, where was I going with that? Boy, I totally lost my train of thought here. We can still connect. Not sure if the error is on Matrix side. So basically what I ended up doing was creating just a ticket for it. On my Gitea instance, I created this issue on the Ansible role EOM, which contains the deployment for this Matrix server. And I created this issue just documenting the error has occurred. And at the moment, I suspect that the issue is on matrix.org side, actually. So I'm just going to leave this ticket open, and if more people try to reach out to me and this continues to happen, we'll investigate further. Another thing is that I noticed a few things with PDP72's account. First of all, it's from matrix.org, and also while we were chatting, I saw that they did not have encryption enabled. Totally fine, not a problem. But it leads me to believe that this is a new account, which, first of all, thank you again, PDP72. That tells me that you made this account specifically to say hello to me. Very, very grateful for that. It took a lot of effort. Thank you. That being said, I wonder if the encryption not being enabled was the issue. Maybe. I also wonder, so I pointed out the public chat here for the Owncast live streams. I also have public chats available, let's see, main and general here. PDP72 was invited and joined. So those, if they had tried to join those and messaged me from there, I wonder if the chat would have succeeded right away. It looks like PDP72 was able to join the general room, so maybe that's a way to do this as well. So I am marking this as an issue. I'm going to keep an eye on it moving forward, and if more debugging is needed, more debugging shall be done. Okay. Let me take a timestamp here. Exactly 15 minutes. So, where we left off last time was the Kraken bot. I'm going to put Matrix away here for just a second because we're going to need it again. The Kraken bot. Let's move over to the Kraken bot. Very shortly after the live stream last week, I managed to get things working. So as we can see, our pull request to post log messages to Matrix has been merged. Hooray. I made the pull request and I merged the pull request, so it's a bit superfluous to be doing things this way again, but it does demonstrate a more enterprise level of development practices. So, and hopefully more people will join me in the future. So anyway, let's take a look at what needed to be done. So the problem I was having was that in this matrix logger, let's pull it up. async.io.run. Now, I don't recall what the state of this was last week. We can actually look at the commits and see the difference. Let's see. No. It's not giving me an obvious view of what has changed since last week. There are ways in Git for me to say, okay, this commit contains last week's, and now I have this commit. I want to see the diff between the two, but it's going to be a little bit too tedious to do on a live stream. It'd be boring, so I'm going to skip it. You can go back to last week's live stream, jump to the chapter about Kraken bot, and you'll see what I'm talking about, where this matrix logger was not working because of async.io. I believe I was using the HTTP client. I was trying to get away with first not using asynchronous methods by using the HTTP client, and that did not work. So then I tried to use the asynchronous client within this logger, and there were problems because the part that needs to be asynchronous, that is sending to Matrix and logging into Matrix, I was trying to do it in this init function. And so I don't know exactly how to explain it. The asynchronous aspects of the methods were returning functions rather than objects or values or nothing. And so the logger was not functional. It would crash and it wouldn't work. The simple solution was that I just contained all of the asynchronous aspects of this logger in the emit statement. This is the part that actually writes your log message where you want it to go. And so I just have all of the asynchronous things happen in here, which includes, we create the client, we log into the server, we add this dummy callback, and then we send to the room. So every single log message, we are going to have to log in to the server again. But that's okay because the client actually works now, and I can demo that for you over in our big terminal. If I go back here, we can see the matrix logger code up top. I'm going to close out of that, and I'm going to pull up this matrix. Oh yeah, let's do them side by side. Look at that. That's GNOME for you. Let's go to finance, Kraken. So this is the room I created on my Matrix server for talking to the Kraken bot. I'll also show you on PHP LDAP admin. If we look at services, Kraken, I've created a service account for the Kraken bot in the background, and this account has been given access to Synapse. So if we look at my group of Synapse users, by the way, if you're using OpenLDAP, this is a group of unique names, as you can see here. I forget why that was important. Something, oh yeah, for the member of attribute. So a lot of these services are able to determine which groups you are a member of based on this member of attribute. And it doesn't work with the POSIX group object in OpenLDAP, but it does work with the group of unique names in OpenLDAP. That's just a little tidbit for you. Videos are a really terrible place to kind of store that information. How is anyone going to search for that and find that here in the middle of this video? I don't know, but maybe it'll be useful to you. I hope it is. Anyway, we can see that down here at the bottom, the Kraken bot has been added to this group. My Matrix server is referencing that OpenLDAP server to know which users have access. And so when I run the command here to Python 3 app.py, it's going to happen quickly, so you should be paying attention over here. It's also kind of small for you, so be paying attention way down here. All we're going to see is that it's going to post this message again, info KrakenBot updating. But we can see that it works. Slowly. It's always when you want to show it off. There we go. Wait. It didn't post. What happened? It moved on. It was supposed to post. We might just try it again. I swear it was working. This always happens when you want a demo. Maybe I deleted I think I deleted that statement. Let's live debug this. Let's go to the Kraken bot. Yeah, I think I deleted. Yes, I did. Okay. All is not lost. So this logger, this matrix logger, if we look at my environment, which I will in a second, we'll see that I have the log level set to info. I don't want this bot to be spamming my matrix server with a bunch of debug statements. So I've set it to info, and I actually don't have any log statements at the very beginning of the bot's execution that will say anything in the server at the moment. And it takes a really long time for this bot to update all of the open, high, low, closed data for all of the markets of interest. So instead of waiting for it to get to the end of that execution just to show you that it's posting a log message, I'm just going to write a new one in here. self.log.info. It works. Thanks to PDP72. Give him a good shout out here. All right. Let's see if that actually does work. If it doesn't, I'm blaming you, PDP72. Okay, it's posted it. There we go. I'm going to close out of this. There we go. I don't want it to do the whole update, but here we can see our log message. Info, it's posting the log level, so anything above info. Kraken bot, that is the name of the application that has declared it. Give me 1 second here. I have another bottle of water that has ice in it, and I've noticed that the ice has melted to a point where it's about to overflow. It's like the surface tension is the only thing holding it intact. Like, I wish I could move the camera over there and show you. It's quite amazing. I have to delicately. Crisis averted. All right. I just looked over to my left and see this meniscus of water just hovering delicately. Anyway, lost my train of thought again. Yes, let's look at Gitea for this. If we look in the actual logger, what I have done is the logging.getlogger name I have you pass the name into the init function, and then all of these things, the strategy, when it creates its logger, it passes in the name of the class. This just makes it easier so that I can see like a specific trading strategy is failing, or if it's a specific model that is failing, or if it's the Kraken bot itself that's posting log messages. So we get that extra level of detail from it. And that is controlled, by the way, by the formatter. Let's take a look at the formatter. This guy right here. So in the matrix logger, there are two aspects to this. There is the logger, which actually contains the Python logging class, and then there is the handler, which does things with the log messages. The common example is this console handler. So you'll create a console handler and a file handler if you want your matrix, or not matrix log, if you want your logger to be writing to both the console and to a file, you'll use a handler for that. And so I have created a handler specifically for matrix. And that is this thing here, which has our asynchronous function in it. To that handler, I add this formatter, and here we get the level name, the name of the logger itself, and whatever message is being displayed. Long and the short of it is that we get messages posted into our matrix chat here. So once I get to the point of deploying this and having it running in production and actually executing trades, I will be receiving messages and updates about what it's doing right here in my matrix, in my matrix chat. So it will be very easy to monitor what's going on. Okay. I think that's all I wanted to show with that for the moment. And I think we are done with Matrix for right now. Unless someone jumps in the chat, feel free. Anyway, what's up next? Let's take a timestamp. Okay, so with that working, I wanted to move on to the next part of this project. I can go straight into, excuse me, if I were to just build the Docker container that exists in that repository and push it up to Docker Hub, I could use the Ansible role that I've already created in this here, this Ansible role Kraken bot, and this will deploy it to my Kubernetes cluster. So I can just run the playbook that exists in here with the latest version of this Kraken bot, and this thing will start working live in production. That being said, I want to do a little bit more infrastructure work before I do that. And what I mean by that is I want to build and host the Docker container right here on Gitea. What we can see if we go into the actual repo and our issue, let's look at our issue. The issue is, and this one's in progress, we can move this, very fun. The issue is host Docker image on Gitea, and the pull request is use Gitea Actions to build Docker image. So what I am doing here is, first of all, let me back up a step. Still kind of the same problem that I see here. We have issues and pull requests in the same place. And this pull request was made to resolve this issue. And as a result, on this project board, I have to move two things around to reference one thing. Maybe I should only put tickets on these project boards. Maybe that's the solution. Or maybe there's some way to connect these more directly. I'm not entirely sure. I'm going to keep playing with it and just keep rolling with it. This isn't a huge problem at the moment. Things are small enough that I can manage moving two things. So for now, it'll be a little ugly, but we're going to roll with it. What I wanted to do was use Gitea Actions to build my Docker image, and then this Gitea packages to store and host the images. And I made some progress with it. Let's take a look. This example actually comes from GitHub. Let me see, what was it called? So if you're familiar with GitHub Actions, it's I want to say, I'm like running back in my mind of saying what it's like, but then realizing that saying it's like something else doesn't really tell you what it is. So saying that Gitea Actions is like GitHub Actions. Well, what's GitHub Actions? Oh, well, it's like Jenkins. Well, what's Jenkins? It is a CI/CD pipeline system, a system for doing automation. CI/CD is continuous integration and continuous development. The idea being that as soon as I merge my changes into the main branch, I want it to automatically, continuously build the image, publish it, and deploy it, so that whatever is in deployment is the actual version of what is in the code here, always, every time, automatically. So that's the goal. And Jenkins is an independent platform that offers that. GitHub Actions is a kind of competitor to Jenkins, where it's done right in GitHub. A lot of organizations will, have an enterprise GitHub account and will use GitHub Actions to build and deploy services in exactly the way that I mentioned. And so Gitea Actions is the self-hosted Gitea version of that. So what I'm trying to do is build this automation pipeline that is going to build my container and then publish it, ideally to Gitea, but for this week, I was just trying to have it published to Docker Hub. And the example, this is the example. Gitea has the same example. I'll prove that to you. So this is from gitea.com. They have a clone. This is just a mirror of the one on GitHub. I think they say that somewhere. I don't think they're saying that anywhere. Yeah, here we go. Mirror of the GitHub version, build and push action. So it's the same one as this. And let's take a look at what it does. It's very simple. I'm not really going to explain the syntax of GitHub Actions or Gitea Actions, mainly because I'm not very familiar with the syntax of Gitea Actions or GitHub Actions. I copied the example. It's a YAML, I can tell you that. But basically all it's doing is logging into Docker Hub. This one does something with QEMU, not sure what that is. And this one is also setting up something, Docker build X. I think this is for building, it tells you up here, it's for building on different, multi-platform images, exporting the cache, etc. And then you would use QEMU for emulation support with QEMU to build against more platforms. I don't really need that, but anyway, it's the example. And then we push what was built to Docker. Looking at it, it should work. It should work right out the gate, shouldn't it? Especially if you delete these two unnecessary things, it should work. It did not work. And let's talk about why. It's still not working, so we are going to leave this stream again with a non-functional product, but that's okay. Progress. So if we look at our actions here, we can see a number of different executions of this. And the very first thing that was happening was it was failing to log into Docker, saying that it couldn't find node in the path. This led me to, I just Googled the issue, and what I found was that it had to do with the way Gitea Actions works. And let's take a look back to Kubernetes here. So let me just make that full screen. Let's go back to this one, and this time I'm going to go to the Gitea namespace. And what we can see here are the pods that are running to produce our Gitea website. We have Gitea itself. We have Gitea Act Runner, which is Gitea Actions. We have our Postgres database, and we have a Redis database, or a cache. And the Gitea Act runner is the thing in question. And it does something called Docker in Docker. So Gitea Act runner is a Docker container. And what it's going to do when it is executing a job is run a Docker container. So it is running Docker containers within Docker containers, which is cool. There is no but to that. It is just cool. It's cool. So unfortunately, my innermost Docker container did not have Node.js installed, which was apparently a dependency of this build and push workflow. I found this strange because they are seeming to advertise it as something that should work out of the box. Doing a little research, I found that it had to do with the labels that were attached to the Act runner. So again, the Act runner is doing Docker in Docker, and it needs to know which of the inner Docker containers it is allowed to use and what they are called. Let's see. Here's the documentation for the Act runner. And we can come down here to the labels. It tells us what our default labels are. So with the name Ubuntu latest, which as we can see in the PR, excuse me, I have told it to run this job. Actually, this is old version, bad example. Let's go back. If I go back a commit, let's look at QEMU. It runs on Ubuntu latest. We'll talk about why it says cat the hacker in a second. But so when I say that this action runs on Ubuntu latest, my Gitea Act runner is going to say, right, Ubuntu latest, that is the Docker container of node with the label or the tag 16 bullseye. So the default labels are this, and that's a little bit strange given that the error that I am seeing back at our actions is that it can't find Node.js in the path. So I looked at the deployment, the Helm chart for Gitea. I suppose I am going to go into Helm today. Helm is kind of think of it like a package manager for Kubernetes. Instead of me having to, when we're looking at all the pods that are deployed here, we can see that there is, there's Gitea itself, there's the Act runner, there's this database, and there's the cache. Instead of me having to configure manually, okay, I want all these pods, and I want all of these persistent volume claims, and I want them attached to these pods in this way. Oh, and I also need ingress rules for each of these things, and I need those configured in this way and pointing to these services. You can configure all of that manually. Let's look at a quick example of that. I have done that. So in our Ansible role, EOM, some of my services, not files, tasks. Let's see, what's an example? I might not have any more examples. Is this one? Yeah, this one. So in this one, there is not a Helm chart available for Owncast. So what I have done is deploy each of those things individually. I create the namespace, and then I create the persistent volume claim, and then I create the deployment, and then I create the service, and then I create the ingress. And that's okay for Owncast because it's one Docker container. But you can see for this one Docker container, I need all of these different resources. So Helm packages all of those together and gives you a little bit easier an interface for deploying the whole service all at once. You just configure this values.yaml, and it has all of those services, PVCs, deployments, all of that defined as templates in the background. You just kind of tell this values interface what you want, and it will do the rest for you. So ideally, I always try to deploy with Helm. It's only when something's not available in Helm that I will go to making my own thing. And I only want to do that for like really easy stuff like Owncast. It just makes this way more easy to manage. Yeah. Anyway, so looking at this Gitea Helm chart, let's see if we can find where the act runner is defined. Actions is here. It's not enabled by default, but this is the source for the Helm chart, not my version of it. I'll show you my version in a second. So in the actions section, if we come down here, there's a config, and we pass it this string, and this string, we have to follow this comment. It's really, really deep in there. Let's open the link. This comment shows us the configuration for the act runner, and down here we have labels. And here we see that on the Helm chart, the labels by default are not the same as what they are in the documentation. Our documentation says Ubuntu latest is Docker node 16 bullseye, whereas the actual Helm chart is deploying as Ubuntu latest Docker Gitea runner images Ubuntu latest. Not necessarily a problem, but it explains why Node.js is not available on the system. So first, I edited the labels. Oh, not in this actual, this is the Kraken bot repository. I did not do this in that repository. If we go to Ansible role EOM and we look at the issues, I first created an issue saying that these labels needed to be updated. I've linked to all of the documentation, the forum post that told me to do this. I said other stuff in this as well. I don't remember. This is for this is why I write this stuff down. But anyway, I just made a quick change to those labels. Let's see. And we can now see that tasks, Gitea. So this is what it looks like when I'm deploying the Helm chart. I just get the repo, update the repo, and then deploy it all at once. This is the whole values.yaml configured all in one. If we come down here to actions, we can see that I've enabled it. And then our config, I've changed the labels to this. So now it runs on Node.js. And what we'll see when I made that change, I published this change, I deployed it to my Kubernetes cluster, and then when I come back over to the Kraken bot, go to actions, and go to update the image tag. Was this one? No, I don't think that was. This might be a good one to see. So here we're saying it's not finding the executable Docker. So in this one, it has Node.js. So that part succeeded, but it doesn't have Docker. Point being, changing the label had the effect that I was looking for. We don't need to go through all of the individual things that I tried in order to get this working. Needless to say, I tried to install Docker. I tried installing other things that it needed. I tried a lot of things, and it just doesn't work. I could not get it to build and push my Docker image. I eventually started trying to use images that were not standard. So like that Node.js image is pretty standard, and I was trying to install like Docker on it manually. This one by someone, Cat the Hacker, this Cat the Hacker latest image, that one is supposedly, well, it does. It has Docker and Node.js already. So it's another one that is used for this purpose. So again, I updated the labels in my Helm chart, deployed that to Kubernetes, changed this actions workflow to use the Cat the Hacker latest, and we can see from the results of that, where's Cat the Hacker? Should be a deploy called Cat the Hacker. I don't think it is. Well, the login worked, but we still end up getting errors. I have seen more things online about this, and I still have avenues that I can explore, but at this current moment, this workflow is not currently working. So that is what I will be working on in the upcoming week, among other things. Yeah, I could, worst comes to worst, I can just build this container manually, push it to Docker Hub, and then it's really no problem. Won't be too out of the way, but I would like to get this working, so I'm going to keep trying with this, and yeah, we'll see where it goes. Did I have anything else I wanted to say about this? No, I don't think so. Okay, let's take a timestamp. We're at 45 minutes. This is a longer one. Nice. Okay, a little bit of water. Stay hydrated, folks. So, let's talk about the future. So, what do we want to do? Moving forward with this project, let's take a look. So, I have hosting the Docker image on Gitea and using Gitea Actions to build that Docker image. That's what I am currently working on. This is just for updating the documentation, which I'll do kind of at any point. I think there are issues in here that are not labeled on the project. Enabling encryption. If we look back at our chat here, again, it's really small, so I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little red shield right there, not encrypted. Yeah, so I want this to be encrypted. I would rather it be encrypted. It's not a terribly big deal that it's not encrypted. That's the end-to-end encryption. The HTTPS encryption is still in effect, so I'm not really wildly concerned about it. It just means that, like, you know, it's possible to find what's written in this chat. There are ways for non-participants to see it, as opposed to a fully end-to-end encrypted chat, which is what this server is set up to do by default. So, enable encryption on the matrix logger. I'm going to add this to our milestones. I don't think it necessarily. It's not necessarily operational condition. I don't know if it's appropriate in this milestone. On projects, however, it is. So we'll put it on projects. It may come off of this board. Let's go take a look at the project board again, though. Okay. That probably won't be too hard. We'll see when I get to it. I have other things that I am thinking about as well, outside of this Kraken bot. The Kraken bot is kind of just, it's just kind of to demo. Well, I do hope it works. I want it to work. I am taking it seriously, but it's really more to demo the way all of these services can interact and the way we can kind of work on a group project together on these platforms. But I have other ideas for things that I want to do here as well. So that may be coming up in the future. And also I wanted to make a request for feedback. If there are projects that you would like to see, or questions that you have about what I'm doing, or I don't know, any feedback at all, feel free to leave it. Discourse is a great place for that. I will give priority to anything that is on Discourse because this is one of my own services. discourse.eom.dev. I post all of my live streams here. You can log in with your Google account. Yeah, so this is a great place to do it. YouTube comments, Matrix. Feel free to give me feedback on what you want to see, the kinds of projects you'd like. I know a lot of people subscribe to my channel looking for C++, not C++, but C content. C and Python, I think, were very popular on my channel when I was doing it a while ago. So if you'd like to see more of that, feel free to let me know. I think that may be all for today. And I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you on the internet. Toodaloo, friends.